special edition of the Views Behind the Table podcast starts now. Take a seat for the first half of our Evening with the View co-host to celebrate 2 seasons of Behind the Table. Get the inside scoop on some of their headline-making moments and hear them reflect on their different voices at the table. Here's executive producer Brian Tutta to kick it all off.
My people! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Behind the Table second anniversary gala extraordinaire. I don't know. It's big. We're very excited to have you here. Thank you all for being here. I want to start by giving a special thanks to our sponsor, Blue Nile, the world's original online jeweler. Now, this is one of all of our favorites, but really Sunny's favorite.
Yes, I like diamonds.
And we discussed outfitting you all with diamonds, but the fear was that Sunny would run off with them and we wouldn't have to stop her. So,
probable.
But I want to mention that Whoopi couldn't be here today, and Anna was supposed to be here, but got stuck in Miami and is on a plane.
On her way.
There's a chance she'll make it. There's a chance. We're having her literally, I have somebody waiting at the gate at LaGuardia in security to grab her and Cha-Cha and whisk them here, but we'll see if we get there in time. I know we have some dedicated fans in the audience, and most of you are dedicated Behind the Table listeners, I think, too. There we go. Thank you for that. I had an idea for a podcast years ago, and the thought behind it was these ladies who we all love, you don't get to hear everything from them during the show because they talk over each other constantly.
Because you have 7 minutes for 5 people.
We have 7 minutes for one segment and 5 minutes. And this way we get to hear more about all of them, and I think that it's we get to see from the host what I get to see backstage every day, and what I get to see.
He sees us in our brassieres and everything.
I do. Not all. Most
Not
of
willingly, by the
Yeah.
way.
Just joy, really.
It's
But
a treat.
I have it here scripted, but we've already seen. Are there bride guys in the audience today? There's a shirt right there in the front.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
They exist.
Are
Are
there-
you being paid to be here today?
Exactly.
Blink twice.
Are there Joy Boys here in the audience?
Wow.
All right. Now, everyone, when they were coming in, the hosts don't know this. Everyone in the audience got a bingo card.
We did.
No, you didn't. The audience got bingo cards for words that the hosts tend to say a lot. So everyone's going to play along, and if someone gets bingo, they're going to win a little prize. So we'll see what happens. It could be anything. It could be, Ava Longoria. It could be anything. So, so I sit down with each of you once a week, and it's interesting because all of your podcasts are so different. Listening to a Joy podcast is different than listening to an Anna Navarro podcast. In an Anna Navarro podcast, I barely speak. I just sit there. She talks for 20 minutes, and the podcast is over. It's fantastic. But Joy, you and I have a kind of natural rapport. This is the time on the podcast I feel like is when we get along the best.
Does she do her psychodrama on you?
It feels a lot like therapy.
I could.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, she's good at
Go
that.
ahead.
But now you've been on the show for 26 years.
That's all?
You were fired for 2 of them,
Oh,
but
that's
yes, but 26 years.
We don't
total.
count
I was
those
fired,
years.
yeah.
And after 26 years, you're working now more than ever. It feels like you're
know.
doing your shows, you're doing all this stuff. What's kept you excited about doing this show for all that time?
It's because of the freedom to speak my mind.
Yeah.
That has always been the attraction. Because when I got this job, I was on the brink of being a sitcom star person.
That's right. You had a
Yeah.
sitcom on the table, and you could have done it
I
if
did.
you wanted to.
And I had one, I did a couple of pilots, American Airlines, but kidding. But I did a couple of the pilots. I was on the brink, and I was in Los Angeles, and I got a call from Bill Getty saying, we want you to do this show
Right.
In the city. And I said, yes, I'll take it. Because the thought of living in Los Angeles made my head spin. I was so lonely there and creepy. I hate it. And also, they said Barbara Walters is going to be in charge, is going to do the show. And I said,
Right.
well, it won't be a dumb talk show.
Yeah.
And so I said yes.
All right, and then you've done it, and the show's changed so much over the years, but you still enjoy doing it. I mean, you still keep coming back. So
Yeah.
what on any given day, what gets you out of bed?
Well, I like the people I work with, number one.
Yeah.
I like everybody, especially this crowd this year. I like this group
Yeah.
a lot. And I also, this is serious, I also feel an obligation to speak about the administration that we're in the midst of. And I feel like we're in a privileged position to say certain things, and that we can actually influence people's thinking sometimes, even if it's a little bit.
Absolutely.
That we're in a lot of trouble in this country right now, and I like the idea that we can say stuff that people will listen to.
Absolutely. Sarah, on the episodes we do on the podcast, we get to hear more about your life at home with Max and the kids and your favorite Sandra. But you definitely
My favorite
your
today.
favorite? Is she your favorite?
It changes all the time.
No, it doesn't.
It
It's your
is.
daughter. It's your daughter. But you definitely overshare on the podcast, which is one of the things we love about you. In one episode, you talked about why you think your dad is hot.
Yeah.
I
did?
Sure,
He is attractive.
But you said it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Everybody says it. Like it's not me that gave him that name.
In another episode, you talked about the fact that how during an intimate moment with your husband, Alexa started speaking to you.
Yeah, no one was
said
talking.
that?
No one was talking to her. She answered to something. I don't know. Must have been me. Max is very quiet. Well, wait, but that was actually fascinating because I told that story on the air, and then Whoopi said, "You have something to say," and I turned and we had an Amazon sponsorship.
Yeah, that was not good.
They're always listening.
Literally always, and we had to reshoot it. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like I don't think the sponsors like my sex
No, I don't think
story.
they liked it either. But how does Max feel about it? Like when you give this, when you talk about your family, when you talk about sexy time with Max, what is the reaction there?
So Max has different boundaries, like where his privacy is
Yeah.
like he keeps it close to the vest. So he doesn't like when I tell stories about him, but I know he's not watching. So the only time it gets me in trouble is when a headline pops out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one time I said that there are nights, and anyone that has kids can relate to this, where we do bedtime together. We have to. The kids are all practically the same age.
Right.
But there are nights where I just want to go into my bed and like not deal with anything. And I joked that I offer things. Transactional offers to go to bed and just not do anything. And so the headline is like, Sarah offers sex to her husband to get him to do, as if he doesn't, one, always
Right.
do that job with me, but two, that I would ever reduce a beautiful act of love
Yes.
to that. So that's when he hears about it, because people from his law firm.
They tell him they're snitching.
So it does get me when I talk about that, because the partner's at his law firm, and that's a really professional environment.
Well, what about the rest of you? Because you all talk about your families and your husbands. Do they get angry? Do they get concerned? I mean,
No, you have to have the conversation on the front end with your partner of like how far they're willing for you to go. But sometimes you do just step in it. For me, it's the same where it's a headline, because my husband's usually working during the day, and I'd love to think he goes to Hulu at the end of the night and watches what I did, but he doesn't. But I made some joke that was something related to face cream that I'm not going to reiterate.
Oh, God, that was awful.
It slipped out. I didn't mean it, but it was everywhere. And my husband's like, "Are you kidding me?" or if your children will see this. So you got to be careful.
I mean, you just got married when you started auditioning for the show, so he didn't really sign up for this. He kind of got drafted.
Not at all. He didn't sign up for anything with me, and he just had to take it and accept it.
All right, well, Sonny, on the podcast with you, we've taken a deeper dive into the kids, too, and Paloma's in college, and Gabe just graduated.
He did. He graduated on Thursday.
Where from?
Harvard.
Harvard. How about that? Everyone's
Is that
marking
on your
down on their
bingo
bingo cards. But what I most enjoy talking to you about is your jealousy, your revenge,
rage?
your revenge-fueled rage. 'Cause I feel like you and I have that in common.
We do have that in
I
common.
do that.
And we
The
have
competitive
the
nature.
streak. Yeah, we
Yes.
have that in common.
Where did that come from with you?
My mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet mother.
Yes, she's a killer. Yeah, mom is really super, super competitive. And Manny's super competitive, and the kids are super
Manny's- oh my
competitive.
God.
Yeah, you've seen Chris Olympics or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah,
can't,
I
like,
forgot.
we used to play chess against each other, and then he got so angry because he kept on losing, and then he flipped the chessboard. Like, he flips game boards. So
Come on, Dr.
Yeah, we can't play together. It's competitive like that in our house.
All right, Alyssa, now we talk about fun things on the podcast, like your love of Bravo, and we had Andy Cohen here today, which was great. But we also talk about some serious stuff and some personal stuff, and you've really opened up about your kind of fertility struggles, which I think is really important to be open about, and it's something that was a choice for you to talk about. Why did you make that choice, and do you feel like you've heard from people that it's affected?
Well, in case I cry, I would just like to note that Sarah Haynes cried during Andy Cohen today. So
Yes.
she cries at literally anything.
Yeah, she cries all the time.
Honestly, it was important for me because I didn't feel like enough people talked about it. So when I started to encounter fertility issues and realizing how hard it can be at my age and with some health conditions I have to get pregnant. I'm like, why aren't more women talking about it? Why do you only start hearing about it when you're in that space? Yeah. And I mean, Sunny and I have talked about it. You were dealing with it at a time when it was talked about even less.
22, 23 years ago.
And I think it started to normalize a conversation for women that just wasn't really as welcome and open. And for me, it's like, there are days on the show where I am not myself, and I'm trying my best to hold it together, to remind myself feelings I'm feeling they're valid, but I don't need to give in to them. I need to focus on the job I have to do. And I also feel so strongly as a woman, like, to get in the spaces we've been able to, you don't want to, I don't know, lose it on air or start crying randomly. So I feel this.
Supposed to do that?
No,
Yeah,
just
she
do
didn't get the memo.
Sarah, we're
So
not.
I feel this extra pressure to really conduct myself well while my body is going through all these things that are really challenging. But I honestly couldn't experience this in a better place than on this show, because we do talk about women's health so much. And Joy's talked about issues she had in the past, and it feels like a safe place to deal with it. But like, I've literally gone to Sarah before a show and been like, I am about to just start crying uncontrollably, like, talk me through this, and we get there. You just don't know how the process and the medicine is going to impact your body.
It makes you crazy.
And then the disappointment throughout. But you just have to, like anything, maintain hope and just know, like, it's a miracle of science that this even exists. I know for a lot of people it's so cost prohibitive, but like, it's going to be the miracle that gives me my family. So I just want people to know it's an option for them.
And it will work.
Yes.
And and I've heard from viewers that it's meant a lot to the fact that we talk about it. So I think any time that there's any opportunity to, it's something we should keep doing, because I think it's hard. I think it's hard for people not to have someone on television when they're watching that's gone through this. And we know it'll have a happy ending.
It will.
It'll be great. Speaking of Bravo, before we move on from that, we had Andy Cohen on the show today, and he suggested that Joy could be a real housewife.
Right? She'd be
Of
good.
New York. I mean, you should think about this. I think there's an opportunity
the way he
here.
described it, that I would be the grande dame.
Yeah.
And that
Giving
people would come
advice?
to me for advice.
Yeah.
Like The Godfather.
Yeah.
That is different from the way he does the shows, where they're just screaming at each other.
Right.
And
You've had
having
enough of that.
fights.
She also thought it would be easier. She's like, oh, I could do that job so easily. I was like, but it's like, that sounds awful.
Yeah, they're all in your business.
I once hosted a reunion
The Mob
of
Wives.
The Mob Wives.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
liked that. It was fun, although I felt like I was going to get killed.
You looked stunned during
They got up and when we're going
But you
at it
wouldn't
with
be
each other.
hosting. You'd be
The
they'd
grand
be killing
dame.
you.
Yeah,
You'd be
you
one
would.
of them.
No, I am the grande dame. Don't you get it?
Andy was
They come
pitching you
to
hard.
me for advice, and I tell them what to do with their lives.
Right before we came out here, Joy was in a swivel chair in the room we had in the back, and she was doing a Godfather impression for about 10 minutes. It was pretty good. So she was just swiveling
I'm
around.
rehearsing for the Andy Cohen show.
All right, I think it's
Makes
gonna be
an
great.
offer.
You'd
We'll
be good
see.
at that.
All right. The last time we sat down for a live podcast, it was October 8th of last year. It feels like longer.
Wow.
But it happened to be, it was a month before the presidential election, and it happened to be the day that former Vice President Kamala Harris joined our table for an interview.
Oh.
It made quite a bit of news, created some viral moments. I guess I'll start with Sunny.
Sonny ruined it. It's Sonny's fault she didn't win.
Sunny, we can't ignore the fact that you may have single-handedly taken down the Democratic Party. Some would say democracy itself, with one question that you asked Vice President Harris about what she would do differently than President Biden, how President
Do y'all
Harris...
remember that?
Yeah.
Hard to forget.
Take me back to that moment and
How hard did you think that question was going to be?
well, did you know instantly that this was going to be meaningful the way she answered it?
I knew it instantly when she answered it, which is why I asked the follow-up question, is there one thing? You know, because I knew, I could see the soundbite and I knew what was going to happen. But I thought it was a really fair question, and I thought it was a question that she would expect.
It wasn't a gotcha question.
By any means.
It
that was
shouldn't have
never
been a
my
gotcha
intention.
question.
But I think we ask tough questions because I think our viewers want to hear those answers,
Yes.
right? And Barbara Walters asked tough questions,
Yeah.
and so I just felt that that's something that she needed to do, differentiate what a Harris administration would look like as opposed to a Biden administration. And she didn't have the answer that I expected. I expected her answer to be something like, we have won. We have this win, this win, this win, this win. We've been more successful than any other administration in decades. And so I intend to build on those wins, but of course I'm going to be different because I'm a woman of color, I'm a child of immigrants, I'm a lawyer. I'm going to do things differently through my life experience. But I mean, doesn't that sound like a good answer? Like, I just assumed that was the answer, and then I didn't get that. And now Jake Tapper wrote it in his book?
It's honestly in every 2024 recap book is kind of the moment. But it speaks
terrible.
No, it speaks to how you are in the history books. Speaks to
the
how important
relevance of
this
the view.
show is,
Yeah.
though. It is where presidential candidates come and make their way, or they fail and don't meet the moment.
Yeah. I don't
Thanks
really.
for bringing that up, Brian.
No problem. Here's another question. Do you guys believe that really did change the election? I don't think so.
I don't think it was I think it was.
No, right?
No.
I think it played a role.
Yeah.
They put the Trump campaign put so much ad money behind that specific clip, and what they were trying to do is tie her to Biden's unfavorabilities, but more than that, just simply the right track, wrong track of the election.
Yeah.
So even people who might be kind of neutral on Biden, it was something like 67% of the country felt like the country was going the wrong way. So they used it to say, well, she's not going to do anything different. Yeah. It wasn't any one thing, but they really were able to use it.
It was not only separating her, didn't separate her from Biden, it also was fueling the narrative like she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, what does she stand for? She doesn't think it, and it just like gave them the commercial.
Thanks, Sarah.
No, but
Joy. So over the past 28 years, you've sat down with everyone from President Obama, all these political figures, Vice President Harris, like we said, President Biden, and of course everyone remembers Carter. Your season 2 interview with Lincoln. That was meaningful. Why do you think these important political figures consistently want to be on the show?
Because we can show them the way they are in real life, the way they really are. I mean, I've met Hillary Clinton many times.
Yeah. Right.
She's different when she's running for office and she's all scared to make a mistake. Yeah.
She's funny.
When she's herself, she's very funny, and she came out. She should have come on The View more, I think, at that time. In fact, somebody screwed her up. Somebody in her campaign.
Someone in her campaign said,
"Don't go on."
Yeah.
And it was a big mistake because she comes, you see, but she's a grandma, she's a wife, she's a friend, she's a mother. She's not just running for office. And that's true of all of them.
Right. And we get to show that. We get to ask the questions that the people at home are interested in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But don't you think part of the appeal of the table is rarely do you see these politicians in a panel setting where it goes into conversation? They're usually
I think so.
making a case, and to have 5 women around you that bring women into the conversation. Yes. I think it's just
of different perspectives.
Yeah.
But it's
Different
probably
perspectives.
scary because you may not know this, but we don't give our questions.
You can't.
No, you can't.
It's against journalistic standards. So they're coming in, they don't know what we're going to ask them.
But I would never advise a campaign to treat their candidate with kid gloves and keep them in safe spaces. That's what so many candidates and campaigns get wrong. You want to test drive them at places like The View, let them show personality, let them see how they do under the fire. And we notice it with people. Like there are definitely ones who have shown brighter than others. Like Governor Wes Moore of Maryland.
Oh my gosh, he
Every
will be
one of us walked away. I'm a Republican, but I got a picture with him because I'm like, that guy's probably going to be president someday.
He is definitely
But
gonna
that he shows up different than I'm not going to name, but there are some who it's like, oh, they were fine, but didn't have that
Shapiro was
charisma.
good, too.
Josh Shapiro's got that riz.
Sarah, you've been critical of both sides of the aisle, and you were one of the very first people that really came out on television, on our panel for sure, to say President Biden should step down after the 2024 debate. There was a big reaction to that, both from the press, from our fans. Were you surprised by it?
No.
Did it give you any pause when you knew going up there you're going to say this? Because it was kind of a big moment.
No, because when I feel something, I feel big. And I felt big about that. And I think the thing is, people want to put you in boxes. So depending on the day, my hate mail is different.
Yeah.
Some days it's like, she's secretly MAGA. And then other days she's like, you're so liberal, you just say whatever they say. And I'm like, because no one can fathom someone that sits independently of parties and jerseys and has nuance and thinks one issue at a time without jumping on the team panel. So like, I cannot stand our partisan system right now.
Right.
There's no one that just looks at a problem. They say, what is the team saying? And if you're not with us right now, you're against us. So there's like no bridge to getting along, to finding solutions, to compromise. So I take a pride, and I take all the bullets and love it when I say more people are like me than are partisan.
There was a time when I would agree with that. That was during the Eisenhower administration. But right now,
I wasn't alive.
Right now, it's not. There's
There weren't
equal.
two
No,
parties now.
but don't get me wrong here. To say there are issues on both sides is not to say the issues are the same or equal. But I come for the left really hard because my values identify more left. I'm center left. I don't see, and I don't mean to be cynical.
So what is it you like about the right?
The right, I'm more conservative on things like immigration I'm more conservative on
But they're
government
disappearing
spending.
people. You don't agree with
No,
that?
no, guys. See, this is where we go off No, I do not agree on that. If you took me in a normal time, the issues I fall right on, I have some. But then I go Bernie Sanders, and Alyssa will go, she's going Sanders right now. Like
this always cracks me up because she's advocated for like a universal living wage. Like she has Bernie-esque positions on certain things, and then on other things you are more to
I'm
the
right. Yeah. Just to finish that up, though, that I think their minds are blown when anyone comes for the left, because the left tends to have the virtuous values that I identify with. So when they mess up, it's almost like you care more, and you're like, I didn't have faith the right was going to do something I wanted, but I expected more from the left.
All right, let's ask one more political question, and then we'll have fun.
Okay.
Alyssa, since working in the Trump administration and resigning in December of 2020, you've been an outspoken critic of his. You were very clear with your concerns about a second Trump term, and I think most of the things you predicted have kind of happened. But he's now 4 months into his second term. How has your approach to covering this administration changed?
It's a good question. So the election went the way I thought it would. I think toward the end, there was like a week that I was like, maybe Kamala Harris is going to win. But my gut had told me, honestly, since about June of 2024, Donald Trump was going to win. It was just kind of a matter of when at that point. And when the election didn't go the way that I wanted to, I took some time of self-reflecting on, I talked about the issues that mattered to me. I talked about sort of the fundamentals, democracy, the rule of law, but I also talked about very specific policy issues. Tariffs were something I was very concerned about, the impacts that could have on small businesses, something that we're seeing deal with now. But when the public didn't go the way that I wanted to, I took some time, put on my journalistic hat, and was like, I'm going to go talk to the Trump supporters in my life, the people I know who voted for him, who I love, who I respect, who have jobs, who are contributing to society, to get an idea of what drove them to be with him so that I could represent why people were with him and give that perspective while I myself wasn't personally with him. And something that I get frustrated with is when I hear like the rantings on cable news of, how could you be with him after, grab him this, January 6th, that. 34 felony counts. Well, the answer is time to go do homework if we really consider ourselves journalists and ask people. We don't need to guess. We don't need to speculate. You can talk to people. Now, it does not mean I'm going to agree with their reason for it, but I want to be able to provide people those answers of what made people, in spite of all those things, be motivated to turn out for him. So I want to bring that to the table because there are good, decent people. 75 million people voted for him. Those are not all bad people. There are neighbors, and I feel like at least knowing what motivated them matters. And then also, if you want to influence change, if you want to be able to talk to them and, get them to where we are on some of these issues, you have to show a certain level of just respect and willingness to listen.
Absolutely.
All right. I hear from a lot of fans that are
I
like,
don't agree with any of that.
Yeah, we know some. But we hear from a lot of fans that are like, oh, well, Alyssa's flipped and she feels differently. But
No, she's
every
very
conversation I've had with you since you started working here, you've been
No,
incredibly consistent.
She's consistent.
Yeah.
On issues, I don't think there's anything I've flipped on, from economics to border security to warnings about his tariffs to warnings about what the second administration would be. But I would genuinely encourage folks, like, we could preach to our echo chambers. It would be much easier if I walked out here and was like, Trump's the worst, let's get him out of here, and we'd all clap and we'd all applaud. But what would that advance? Like, how would that move the ball? Yeah, it'd make us feel better. It wouldn't move the ball forward. Talking to people who feel deeply differently, even if you're scared, even if you're uncomfortable in this moment, those small conversations are what move hearts and minds, not just lecturing people that they work
Joy
with.
does.
Joy does this actually very well.
Yes.
You like to engage
You love talking
Trump
to a Trump
supporters.
supporter.
Every time we go out somewhere, if we're shooting the show somewhere, I will turn my back for 5 seconds, and Joy will either be in a heated conversation or posing for photos with Trump supporters.
They always end up posing with her. It always ends well.
It always ends
Just
well.
starts uncomfortably.
Can you tell the hot Joy Behar story?
Oh, yeah, I love
Oh my gosh, yeah. Tell that one.
I was in front of Gucci, I think.
Yeah, you're in front of Gucci on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, you were in
And
Costco.
Trump supporters
Different
were.
story.
What were
Oh,
they doing?
sorry.
The Trump supporters. They were having
They were
placards or something.
Yeah, they were having the signs.
Yeah. So
they
they
were-
said,
yeah.
"Oh, hi." And they said, "Oh, you know what? You look like a hot Joy Behar."
And then she turned and said, I am a hot
Said,
Joy
"I am a
Behar.
hot Joy." They were like, "What?" No.
Tomorrow, check back for the second half of our evening celebrating 2 seasons of Behind the Table. See you then.